University. So basically my background is in chemical engineering and then in environmental engineering and PhD in chemical engineering, focusing on wastewater treatment and also valorization of biomass waste. Okay, so just a short introduction of myself. Then before we proceed, I just want to know how is your knowledge so far on your wastewater treatment, especially for the tertiary treatment or so-called advanced wastewater treatment. Okay, so just a short survey from myself. Okay, let's do the Mentimeter. Okay, student, can you please proceed with the Mentimeter? Wait, where? The join code. Can you see the join code? Wait, let me share the QR. It's much more easier. I just want to know how is your understanding so far on the tertiary treatment and advanced wastewater treatment. We take few minutes, 2 minutes, so that I know how is your understanding so far. Okay, so I just see phosphate and nitrate. See, phosphate and nitrate. Okay, so that is actually what how we need to remove phosphate and nitrate. Basically, the removal of nutrient. Okay, so let's go. I will start the lecture. Can you see my slide? Yeah. Okay, sure. Let me just project it. Wait, I reshare. Okay, I just reshare my screen. Wait, let me do the setting again. Okay, this is better. Now, how tertiary treatment, also called advanced wastewater treatment. Now, where do we do this treatment? Okay. Now, where do we do this treatment is after your secondary treatment. Okay, if let's say you have...
Dr. Ayu, dia interrupt.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, dah boleh. Sebab tadi nampak bukannya slideshow. Okay, now it's okay.
Okay,
Mungkin dia lambat sikit.
Okay.
Okay,
Now,
thank you, Dr. Ayu.
okay, so advanced wastewater treatment, also called tertiary treatment, is when you required after your secondary treatment. So basically in your wastewater treatment, you have the effluent over here, effluent. Then the first treatment, then you will go to the second treatment. Then if your effluent over here, sorry, this one is influent. So if the effluent is still not meeting the standard, whether be it as standard A or standard B, you need to proceed to the tertiary treatment. Okay, so this is when you need to decide what are the processes involved, the unit operation involved, and also how is the overall process. Okay, whether after the third tertiary treatment, do you meet the standard or not? Okay, so it can be standard A or standard B. It depends the location of your wastewater treatment. Okay, so we will cover nitrogen removal, phosphorus removal, and also solid removal. Okay, in Malaysia context, IWK, okay, I take example as IWK, it operates sewage treatment in Malaysia. So IWK, you try to look up what is the standard that they use. Okay, whether standard A or standard B, and why do they choose that standard. Okay. Now as the overview, this chapter, the core concept and the applications. Okay, you can see advanced treatment or the tertiary treatment, we will focus on the nutrient. Nutrient here means that the nitrogen and also the phosphorus. Okay, why it is important, later we'll go through into detail. Now, the nitrogen and phosphorus removal, we can use biologically or chemically. Okay, then after that, we will go through on the solids and micropollutant involved. Micropollutant here, it can be like heavy metals, pharmaceutical waste, okay, that you cannot remove from the primary and secondary treatment. Okay, then we will go through some Malaysian context on how they apply this tertiary treatment. So, why we need to remove nitrogen? Okay, can I have some response from the student? Why do we need to remove the nitrogen? You can chat or you can open up your mic. Can I have few response from the students? Why do we need to treat to remove the nitrogen? Okay, so I'm sure you are not okay. Someone is typing. Yes, to prevent eutrophication. Okay, what? That's good. Thanks, Mira, for responding. Okay, correct. To prevent eutrophication. So what is eutrophication actually? If you go through or pass by some lake or some river, if you notice there are some algae bloom. This the green color algae bloom. Okay, that is the cause of excess of nitrogen. Okay, excess of nitrogen. Now, how it affect the aquatic life? What do you think? How it affect the aquatic life? Correct. Lack of DO. Okay. Other than that, correct. It will disrupt the ecosystem and kill aquatic life. Yes, it will disrupt the ecosystem by lack of dissolved oxygen means it prevent the air from entering. So that's how the oxygen from the air, okay, so the diffuse of oxygen, the dissolved oxygen into the water, it blocks the air and also it blocks the sunlight. Okay, some of it, they required some sunlight, the air, the oxygen. So from there, lack of dissolved oxygen, it will affect the aquatic life, not only the fish. Okay, there are a lot more aquatic life inside. Okay, now how the nitrogen, the organic nitrogen, it can comes from protein or urea. Okay, this nitrogen, it can comes from agriculture waste or industrial waste that contains nitrogen. Okay, then it will form the ammonia nitrogen, the ammonium, and also the nitrate. Okay, so we need the correct pH, temperature, and the condition for the nitrogen removal. Okay, fun fact over here, if you see here, the Chesapeake Bay. Okay, this one later you can go through, Google up what happened in Chesapeake Bay. Okay, why they impose the effluent limit as low as this? Okay, due to the severe nutrient pollution. Okay, if you Google, then you will see the image, what happened in there. So our Malaysian context, Malaysia Klang River is also facing the similar threat because a lot of nitrogen in the water source. Okay, so we need to treat that nitrogen. Okay. Now, fact check. Wastewater treatment plants that use biological process for nutrient removal are called B&R, biological nutrient removal. Biological here means they use the microbes, specific microbes, okay, not random microbes, specific microbes that can convert the nitrogen into the byproduct, okay, into the product. So some reflection over here. If you walk through past by your river, the river near your campus, you can see what are the human activities that contribute to the nitrogen. So how this affect, and try to think how you can improve the quality of the water. Okay, so there are 3 biological pathways. We have nitrification and denitrification, nitration, okay, nitration, and deammonification or anamox. Now, how they're different between these 3, you can see the key concept. Okay, the nitration, nitration, and deammonification, it starts with the ammonium gas. Okay, where nitrogen react with the water inside and it will produce ammonium gas. Now, how the process involved? For nitrification, it involves aerobic and anoxic. Means that the first stage, it require the oxygen, the aerobic. Then the next step is anaerobic. Anoxic is anaerobic. Okay, so all process, the aim is to convert the ammonium into N2 gas. Okay, the difference is in their process and also their microbes. Okay, so the nitrification process, it used this specific microbe, nitrobacter. Denitrification, it used facultative anaerobes. Facultative anaerobe stage, it used Pseudomonas. Okay, if you use some random microbe, it will not affect the process. Otherwise, it will produce low efficiency. Okay, so as a wastewater treatment plant engineer later on, you will need to find out what is the suitable microbe for this kind of process. Next, we'll go to the nitration process where, okay, here, the ammonium converted to nitrite. Okay, here it used aerobic, then anoxic. Okay, then anoxic. But the deammonification from the ammonium, it directly produces N2 gas without the oxygen and the COD needed. Okay, COD here means carbon source. Now these two process, it requires carbon source. Now where this carbon source come from? Carbon source, it can come from your influent. Remember, your influent contains high organic content. Okay, so high organic content means high carbon. Okay, so you can supply your influent to this stage for source of carbon, or else you can also supply the methanol or ethanol. So those things, it will affect your efficiency. Okay. Now, why do they need carbon source over here? Nitrification and denitrification. What do you think? Why do they need carbon source? Okay, something that you can think of later on. Why do they need carbon source over here? But this part, it doesn't need carbon source. Okay, that's one. I'll leave it to you to study why it needs. From the chemical reaction involved, then you will know why it needs the carbon source. Okay. Okay, so I proceed to the process configuration over here for the pre-anoxic or MLE, modified Lenzat-Ettinger. Okay, so it comes from anoxic to aerobic. Okay, in nitrification process, there are a few methods as well. One of it is the MLE. Okay, post-anoxic, aerobic to anoxic. What it needs? It needs external carbon. Okay, here you see external carbon. It can come from methanol, ethanol, acetate, or your influent with high organic content. Okay, the process, it can happen, it can occur in sequencing batch reactor. Means that one single cycle. So let's say you have one reactor, all process, the aerobic and anoxic occurs inside this one single reactor. Okay. Okay, now, just now is with biological. Now we go for physical-chemical for N removal. We have also air stripping. Okay, air stripping. Where here it involves physical-chemical, no biological involved over here. So how it works? Air stripping converts ammonium to gaseous ammonia. Okay, here, water inlet here is your wastewater inlet. It will be distributed, okay, through here. then it fall down through the packing. Okay, this is packing. Packing. The purpose of the packing is one of it is to increase the surface area, the contact area. Okay, now air inlet, you have air over here, so water out. Water out here is clean water. So wastewater inlet over here contains the NH4, the ammonium. It passed through, then it contact with the air. Okay, air. Air outlet over here, sorry, the outlet over here, it will contain the ammonia gas. Okay, the gases of ammonia and release it to the atmosphere. Now, one thing over here, this later might be you will learn how to control the gas ammonia concentration in the air. Okay, that one is in air pollution part. Okay, so this is the basic step how the air stripping occur. Now, in Malaysia context, air stripping is used in some industrial effluent. Let's say a fertilizer, they produce a lot of nitrogen. So some of it, they use this air stripping because it doesn't involve any biological treatment. Okay. Now, for the reflection over here, okay, try to think. Air stripping releases NH3 to the atmosphere. So is this truly removing the pollutant or just transferring it? What are the environmental implications? Okay. This one, it will be covered in the air pollution. Okay, because this one involves the air already. Means that from the wastewater, the pollutant in the wastewater react over here, then it convert to NH3. Okay, so here, is it truly removing or transferring it? Okay. Now we move to the phosphorus. Before we proceed, do you have any question? Sorry, I didn't ask. If you have any question to ask, you just put through in the chat box here. Right, Mira, as energy of food. Just now I think this one for the carbon source. Okay, as energy of food. Is there any question? Okay, I hope you understand. Now we proceed to phosphorus in wastewater. Phosphorus, just now is nitrogen. Now we focus on the phosphorus. Phosphorus, where it comes from. Okay, identify the sources. It can come from the human waste, synthetic detergents, okay, in the form of phosphate, food waste. Okay, there are various of sources that have phosphorus in it. Okay, how is the process to remove waste phosphorus? By chemical precipitation and also biological phosphorus removal. Chemical precipitation, you can add coagulants. Okay, coagulants, metallic coagulants or lime. Then it will precipitate the phosphorus. Another method is biological. Okay, again, in biological, you cannot simply use any random microbe. It must be specifically focusing on the phosphorus removal. Similar to nitrogen removal just now. So the microbes must be specific to the nitrogen and phosphorus removal. Okay, because by using that organism, it can store large amount of P in the cell biomass under certain conditions, anaerobic and aerobic. Okay, if you use any random microbe, you just throw any random microbe, it will not affect the process. Okay, it will not treat if it is the wrong microbe. All right. Now, some reflection over here. Detergent manufacturers have reduced phosphate content in products. So, what do you think? Has this been enough to solve the eutrophication problem? Or what other sources remain? Okay, some of the manufacturers have reduced the phosphate due to this eutrophication effect, and also they need to follow some standards so that a low level of effluent being released to the river. Okay, so you can go through some textbook and Google around how this reflection. Okay, now biological phosphorus removal. This one I take from my textbook, Environmental Engineering by Romana. The author is Romana. So if you Google through, there are, I think, more methods, but this is covered in the textbook. So I will discuss these 4 methods lah. Not discuss, I will just introduce you. Okay, so for the details, you can go through to the textbook to see how actually the chemical reaction, the condition. Okay, you can go through. Now the 4 dots. For these 4 methods, okay, you can see the difference. Okay, for 4 dots, it starts with anaerobic and aerobic. A2O, it combined. Okay, anaerobic and anoxic, then it go to the aerobic. Okay, there are few stages. For Baden-4, 5 stages. UCT, anoxic recycle to anaerobic. Okay. These 4 methods, when you involve in the wastewater treatment plant design, the one of important factors you see apart from the processes is what is the SRT needed. Okay, each process, it requires different SRT, solid retention time. Because this SRT, it will determine the design of your reactor. How big your reactor? How is the flow? How is the whole process? Okay, the design, the volume, then it will determine your design. Now, how BPR works? It starts with the anaerobic zone. Okay, then it goes to aerobic zone. Now, in aerobic zone, it promotes the phosphorus organism growth. Biodegradable COD, okay, the influent is fermented to acetate. So the organism will produce PHB and it will release the phosphate. Now in aerobic zone, okay, aerobic zone, where we require O2 over here, the PHB is metabolized for cell synthesis. So the energy will drive the polyphosphate storage, removing the phosphate from the solution. Okay, it will store the phosphate inside the cell. Then it will remove or reduce the phosphate composition or content from your wastewater. Okay, in the Malaysia context, IWK, Pantai 2, they uses biological nutrient removal, incorporating with the phosphorus removal in order to meet the DOE. Okay. Now, we are done with nitrogen and phosphorus removal. basically biological and chemical and physical treatment. Any question? Okay, I hope you still focus, because later on we will, there are some questions, perhaps we can try to test your understanding. Okay, next, solid removal. Tertiary solid removal. Just now, nutrient, nitrogen and phosphorus. Now we focus on the solid. Okay, the solid can comes from, where the solid can comes from? What do you think? Remember, this one is after your secondary. First treatment, you have your influent, then you go to secondary treatment, then now tertiary treatment. This is your effluent. Now, here, you still have solid. If let's say you still have solid, okay, my question again, my question. Why do you still have solid after your second treatment? What do you think? Why do you still have solid? In secondary treatment, it has gone through secondary treatment. Why do you think still have solid in the secondary effluent? Okay, if you later on become wastewater engineer, suddenly you found out solid in your effluent after the secondary treatment. Now, how do you troubleshoot the problem? Yeah. Prafatsan, yes, correct. Residual suspended solid that did not coagulate or flocculate from your secondary treatment. That can be one of the reasons. So meaning that your secondary treatment is not efficient. There is something that you need to figure out what happened in your secondary treatment. So as an engineer, you need to go back to your secondary treatment plant, troubleshoot the issue. What's the reason the solid passed through your secondary treatment? Okay, in real process, there is no 100% efficient. Okay, rarely 100% efficient. So as an engineer, you need to think of how you can meet up the standard. Okay, Prafatsan, so you said that not coagulate or flocculate. Then you need to look through how is your coagulation and flocculation process. Why it does not flocculate? It must be some of the condition or your flocculation agent, coagulation agent. Okay, it can be your perhaps flow. Okay, the content in your wastewater. Okay, you need to look through that. Okay, thank you, Professor, for the response. Now, for the solid part, there are few methods Okay, this one is the general method. There are a lot more if you go through because current technologies is fast moving. Now, granular media filtration. Can use granular media filtration. Okay, this is to remove the TSS or secondary effluent. TSS stands for total suspended solid. Okay, so when you detect when effluent when effluent TSS less than 10 mg per liter required. So if you detect it is not meeting the standard or it is not meeting your requirement, so you need to troubleshoot, find out what to do. You can use dual or multimedia filters with anthracite, sand, and garnet. Okay, this one is not limited, not limited to this. Okay, so next is activated carbon adsorption. AD. Okay, AD, different with AB. It removes the refractory organics, sulfide, heavy metals. Okay, AD, heavy metals like let's say you have ferrum inside your inside your wastewater. You have let's say PB. Okay, you can consider the activated carbon adsorption because it removes the ions. PAC, powder or granular. Okay, P stands for powder, G stands for granular. In fixed or moving bed columns. Spent carbon can be regenerated by heating. Not only limited to heating, you can explore there are more methods for regeneration process. Okay, other than that, you can also use membrane filtration. Okay, membrane, it removes particulates and microorganisms. RO or nanofiltration, it removes dissolved ion. Okay, used for water reuse, aquifer recharge, and industrial application. So again, after your secondary treatment, is still not meeting the standard, then you need to proceed to tertiary. Okay, so to proceed to tertiary, to decide what are the unit of and the process involved, here you need to check what is not meeting the standard, whether it is P and the nutrient or the solids or the ions, okay, or the microorganism. So from here, then only you determine what process that you want to use. Let's say here, let's say after secondary treatment, you check after the secondary treatment composition, you check tiba-tiba ada like microorganism, E. coli, for example, E. coli, or other microorganism lah. Then, as engineer, you need to think which process is suitable to remove that microorganism. You cannot use granular media filtration because granular media filtration, it has big pores. Granular, it has pores. So the microbe can pass through. Okay, so other than this option, you can think of to use membrane filtration. Membrane filtration, consider whether to use microfiltration, ultrafiltration, or nanofiltration. It depends to the size of your microbe. Okay. Now, okay, for the reflection over here, could advanced tertiary treatment and water reuse be a viable long-term solution? So what are the public perception challenges? Okay, so you might think of, could advanced tertiary treatment and water reuse be a viable long-term solution? Whether, let's say, you choose just now in your case to remove the E. coli or microbe, membrane filtration, will it be viable for long-term? Membrane, the issue is the fouling issue. And also it quite costly. So as engineer, you need to think whether this is suitable for long-term or short-term. If not suitable, what are the options that you have? Okay. Now this is granular media filter. So granular media is like similar you have, for example, in school, I think you ada buat some filtration process. So ada sand, ada gravel up here, sand, big size of sand and then smaller size of sand. Then water pass through. Then you have clear water over here. That is the basic concept, granular media. So the media over here, it is not limited to this. This is basic general concept. Okay, you can have more different type of media and you have more layers of the media. Again, it depends to your requirement over here. If you require a very low concentration, then you can think of more efficient media or more layers. Okay, that's the engineer work, to design things. Okay, activated carbon, like more to the molecular sponge. Okay, it can remove the organic compounds, the ions, okay, heavy metals, odor, okay, the odor, chemical contaminants. Now, these figures, it shows you continuous process of adsorption, okay, uses activated carbon. This is your wastewater, your influent. It passed through the first column. Okay, here pass through here. Okay, usually here you will have the sensor to detect the composition. Let's say you want to filter out your ferrum. So in the first effluent, what is the concentration of your ferrum? If it's still above the limit, then you need to pass through to the next column until you get your effluent meeting the standard. Amount of columns, how many columns that you need to use, it depends to the efficiency of the column, each column. And your adsorbent as well. Here, adsorbent. Let's say you want to remove ferrum. Okay, you want to remove ferrum. But you use normal activated carbon to capture based on the physical adsorption, based on the porosity. Okay, we have adsorbent, we have pores, okay, increase the surface area. But you want to capture Fe2+. Okay, it cannot simply adsorb on the surface. You need to functionalize your activated carbon to have positive charge. Sorry, not positive, sorry. negative charge. Negative charge. So that the negative charge can chemically absorb the ferrum. That will be more efficient to absorb the ferrum or any ions. Okay, that one is if you have specific pollutants, you can functionalize your adsorbent, functionalize your media. Okay. Now, next we move to the membrane filtration from particles to ion. Okay, for membrane filtration, we have micro, ultra, nano, and also reverse osmosis. How do you determine which one to use? Okay, what do you think? How do you determine which type of membrane do you use? Correct. Based on particle size, then you determine which membrane that can remove your particles. Let's say your particles, okay, let's say microfiltration. It filters out this size of particle. Okay, but in your wastewater, you have particulates 0.01 micron. You have this size of particulates, particles, okay? But you choose to use microfiltration. Will it remove the particles? Again, my question, if you have particles 0.01 micron in your wastewater, but you choose microfiltration, will you remove your particles over there? Correct. No. Then what membrane that is suitable to remove that particles? Yes, it will pass through the filtration. Now, which type of membrane that is suitable to remove that 0.01 micron? Ultrafiltration, correct. It's suitable to use ultrafiltration. Okay. What happens if you use nanofiltration? What happens if you use nanofiltration? Yes, might block the membrane pores and cause cake formation. Correct. Membrane filters will eventually accumulate the suspended solid. Correct. Okay. This one, nanofiltration, it filter out that size of particles. So when you use nanofiltration, it will block, it will foul. So your process is not efficient. You will need to replace the filter. Okay, the membrane is costly. So that's why as engineer, you need to analyze and decide which one is suitable for your process. Okay, that's good. You can think of how is the solution. Okay, for the reflection over here. Membrane fouling is the biggest operational challenge. If you are a plant engineer in Malaysia, what pre-treatment strategies would you implement to minimize the fouling cost? Okay, pre-treatment. So again, membrane, it has specific particle size. So for the pre-treatment, you need to filter out first the bigger size of the particles. Let's say just now you have this size of particles, but in your system, let's say you join the company, they already use the nanofiltration. You cannot change. So what you should do, you need to do pre-treatment. Filter this out first using other type of filtration. Then only you can pass through the rest, the permeate to the nanofiltration. If not, it will block your membrane. Okay, and it is very costly to change the membrane. Okay. Okay, so this is some example advanced treatment in Malaysia. IWK, they use the biological nutrient removal, nitrogen and phosphate. Okay, Puncak Niaga, the Sungai Selangor water treatment plant, they use the GAC adsorption and the advanced filtration to remove the micropollutants. Advanced filtration here just now, it can be the membrane, it can be the RO. Okay. Now the the palm oil industry, palm oil mill effluent, uses an aerobic and aerobic biological process and membrane filtration. Okay, now this one, because there has a lot of organic content, high organic content. So biological process is more suitable. Okay. Now, as an engineer, you first thing first, before you design your process, you need to know which standard that you are following. Which standard is depends to the location of your plant. Okay, which standard, and then what is the composition in your influent, wastewater influent, composition, the BOD, COD content, then you can decide the rest. Okay, to summarize the chapter, okay, chapter 13 here, I refers to the textbook. To summarize, if you have high nitrogen, so how do we remove this nitrification, deammonification, air stripping? Okay, if you have high phosphorus, these are the options that you can use. If you have high solid, so these are the options. All of these, you must always refer to the standard. Okay, DOE standard. So when it involves the industrial effluent, you must focus on what standard do you use and what are the regulations, the acts that you need to follow. Okay, so again, this is a summary and some key takeaways over here. You can read through like this one, biological process, okay, are preferred for N and P, cost effective. Okay, because you use microbe, more effective. Second one, for the membrane filtration, enables high quality water reuse. Okay, critical for water scarce region and industrial application requiring ultra pure water. So if you need, your industry need ultra pure water, membrane filtration is the best. Next key takeaway is the process selection. Depends on the effluent quality targets, okay, and the available carbon source. This is what I meant just now. Temperature and cost, and there is never single best. You must combine the processes in order to meet the requirement of the standard. All right, I think I have done covered the topic. Do you have any questions? Just on time, you have 2 minutes left. Okay. Okay. Just
Okay.
kejap doktor.
So,
Kejap. Okay.
apa?
Last one, can you please, I just want to check your your post understanding. Okay, again, back to the Mentimeter. Now, what do you understand after all the topics? What do you understand? Wait, let's go to the Mentimeter again. Oh, I think we don't have enough time for the last Mentimeter. Okay, it's okay. I think I need to end my lecture now. Dr. Azila, so I think I've covered everything. If the student have any question, you can always contact me through email. And I think that's all for today's class. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ayu. Okay, thank you, the students.
Thank you, doctor.
Okay,
Doctor.
welcome. Okay, thank you everyone. Bye. See you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Ayu, ya.
Bye. Yeah.